Started. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I'm going to ask Commissioner Thomas if he'll give the invocation, followed by a pledge.
Please join me. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We're just humbled and honored to be here. We just ask you to just guide us tonight. Just be with us, be present. May we put our agenda aside and do your will and the will of our county. Ask you to bless those in our county that are sick, that are hurting, need your care. Ask you to just give them peace and comfort. Be with us in all things we do. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, is there any additions or changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I've been pulling item 3 off the consent agenda.
Item 3?
Yes.
Richard, you want to add Buddy in for a presentation?
Yes, I'm going to add Buddy Wells in for a presentation as well.
Vote to approve the
We have a excuse me.
Okay, go ahead.
We have an add-on item for support of letter of support for City of St. Mark's grant under consent.
Can you add an item on consent?
Okay, so
I don't know.
you're going to add that add-on item, but we're going to have to vote on that add-on item separately, right? Does it?
Yes.
Or does it doesn't get
It
voted on?
doesn't matter whichever way y'all want to do it.
Let's
Vote on
just-
it separately. That'd be
Yeah,
good.
let's just vote on it separately that way.
Want it under general business then?
No, it could be under consent, just like you pulled that
Yeah,
out.
let's pull it out.
Motion to approve with those changes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we're going to move to citizens to be heard. Like every meeting, we have a section at the beginning and a section at the end, the citizens to be heard. So indicate if you want to speak at the citizens to be heard in the front of the meeting or the citizens to be heard in the back of the meeting. Have we got any citizens cards? Okay, first citizen, we have Bob Danzy, to be followed by Bill Russell.
Well, hey, how are y'all tonight? My name's Bob Danzy. I live in Spring Creek. I'd like to talk to you tonight about a right to vote. You see, there's a group of people that apparently feel that we don't have a right to vote. Now, I don't know the last person that was disenfranchised in the county and didn't have a right to vote. I don't know of anybody that's ever been told, nope, you can't vote. So, well, let me say this first before I say the other. A few years ago, there was several years ago, commissioners were elected. People had their right to vote, and they elected them. They decided to give us a wetlands ordinance. And then along after that, citizens voted to give us a charter. Oh, that's fine. Everybody been voting. Then the citizens voted and gave us this board, these commissioners. 4 of you have thought better and thought that that's quite a little bit of an overreach and decided to move the pendulum back some. We all voted for y'all. So here we are. Nobody's been right to vote's been taken away. But what's happened is the people that are bringing that forward is they're having to hide behind that because the agenda that they're bringing forth is just not all that good of an idea. Taking your land, doing what they want with it, and we have to pay the taxes. So you can't really go out and sell that idea. If you go out and you tell somebody, well, what we want is 75 foot of your land, we want you to keep paying the taxes, and we want you to do what we want you to do with it. So, what they've done is an old politician campaign trick, whatever you want to call it, is hide behind something else. They've hid behind your right to vote, when truly it's just about taking some of your private rights away, taking your land. So just remember when you see this thing about your right to vote, that it's not about, the whole issue is not about your right to vote. You've always had a right to vote. The issue is about wetlands and taking your property. Now, that's my opinion, you're taking the property, but I don't know what else you call it. So, I just thought we ought to get that out in the open, that this whole agenda is hiding behind something else, because the wetlands is really not something you can go to door and sell. Thank you.
Okay, was Bill Russell going to speak at the last one? Okay. All right, that's the only citizen we had to be heard. We're going to move on to awards and presentations. First, we're going to have an announcement of services by Big Ben Homeless.
Going on, excuse me, Paige, there's people that seem to think that they want to speak.
First or last?
I don't know.
I only had the one card. If there's someone else who wants to speak at the first citizens be heard. Okay, Ms. Lanart.
We couldn't forget you, Miss Arts.
I didn't have your card.
That's okay. Good evening, gentlemen. In early September, Jim Hillier and I volunteered to get the community center up and running at no charge to the county, and we requested quick approval to do so. Instead, the county issued an RFP for volunteer management. In October, we responded with a detailed written proposal. In November, we gave you a presentation describing the programs that we would develop and offer. These included daily basketball and volleyball activities for kids, an after-school program, a reading readiness program for preschoolers, a teen center and teen activities, and many more. In addition, we obtained commitments from multiple community partners to offer programs ranging from yoga for kids to summer camp. At the end of the November workshop, if you recall, we again expressed our desire to get started sooner rather than later, and asked that at the December 9th commission meeting, we receive a decision one way or the other. We gave the county administrator an agenda item to that effect for the December 9th meeting. Approval was sought for an agreement with us for volunteer-run programming. Volunteer management wasn't included. Still, the county administrator declined to put this on the agenda, saying he wanted first to find out what the Ounce of Prevention grant would cover. We have waited patiently, yet no contract with the county has been forthcoming to Life Fitness. 5 months, nearly half of the year I offered to donate, has elapsed. Therefore, Jim Hillier and I respectfully withdraw our proposal. It hurts my heart to do so, as we would have offered fun and popular programs that would have served the community well. I am puzzled as to why there has been so little support for making our proposal a reality. We offered you and the county a wonderful gift. We ask only that we start quickly, and once the Ounce of Prevention grant looked likely, we asked to be approved as joint partners with them. I am disappointed that WCCY leaders have not been as supportive of our proposal as we have been of theirs. I am surprised by their insistence to be totally in charge of the community center and their unwillingness to collaborate with us as they would have collaborated with the YMCA. This stance seems not in the best interest of Wakulla County youth. Lastly, I am disappointed that our proposal never came to you, the County Commission, for a vote. We are giving you our letter of withdrawal, a short list of recommendations, the agenda item intended for December 9th, and some additional information. I remain interested in helping to develop the outdoor facilities and may bring you specific proposals at future dates. Thank you and best wishes.
Is anyone that I missed that was wanting to speak? This is the only other card I have. Okay.
One more card.
Do we have any more cards for the citizens to be heard for the first person? Okay. Okay, if not, we're going to move on to awards and presentations. The first presentation we have is announcement of services by Big Ben Homeless. Is anyone here to give the presentation for Big Ben Homeless?
Pretty brief.
All right. If not, we're going to move on to the next. We have a presentation going to be given by Herb Donaldson and Bruce Ashley for the Wakulla Working Waterfronts Project Update.
Hello, everybody. My name is Herb Donaldson. I'm with the Palette Retreat Theater, but I'm also the president of Healing Arts of Wakulla County. I want to tell you a little bit about Wakulla's Working Waterfronts Photo Project. The Wakulla County Coalition for Youth, on behalf of the Healing Arts of Wakulla County, or HAWC, applied for and earned a $25,000 grant. This project will demonstrate the power of art to reboost and reawaken a community's self-esteem. This project is a tribute to the individuals and families who, for generations, have contributed to Wakulla's growth and survival by their use of an ancient custom. What is the project? It is this. The grant money received is being used to engage photographers to help capture the richness of Wakulla County's maritime heritage, including the fishermen, the shrimpers, the oystermen, the crabbers, the crab pickers, boat makers, all of that. Our photographers include Brett Albritton, Mickey Cantner, Linda Kinsey, Joanne Palmer, Robert Seidler, Mark Wallheiser, and in a limited capacity, Lou and Betsy Kellenberger. One thing must now be accomplished, and that's 45 photos must be taken. The photographs are meant to tell the story of Wakulla's maritime traditions by highlighting the people and the families who work daily, who spend a majority of their lifetimes keeping those traditions alive. So what happens to the photos? We have partnered with Lively Votech. They have offered to print our photographs, provide the matting, and to build the actual frames for these photographs. The photo exhibit is scheduled for Friday, April 18th at the new community center during the Wild About Wakulla week period. From there, the grant requires that we exhibit or travel the photographs to at least 3 different locations. We have been offered opportunities to tour the photos not only throughout Wakulla County, but to the TCC location in Tallahassee and to Apalachicola as well. One of our goals is to have it tour at the Capitol building and then other counties throughout the state of Florida so that they can look upon Wakulla County as a place of inspiration. Our website is now up, it is now running, so that you can view the progress that we have made in these past 18 months. That website is wakullasworkingwaterfronts.com, and we ask that you tell other people about it and get them interested in telling their stories about their fishing heritage in Wakulla County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, sir.
No?
No, sir.
The presentation?
No, sir.
Okay.
Okay, next we're going to have Buddy Wells come up and give a presentation regarding the charter update.
Good afternoon, gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, and fellow board members. I know that the last board meeting, I think my name got kicked around quite a bit, so hopefully tonight here we can get all that straight. You should have a copy of everything that I have before me here. And I'll go ahead and get started. An individual approached me asking several questions about the above reference provision, and on there it says 6.1.1 of the charter. Now, the county's charter recently contacted me in the capacity of supervisor of elections. Specifically, following questions were raised as to the intent of the provision when it was adopted. Does the requirement that quarterly reports be submitted as to the number of signatures gathered mean that the entity will submit at the end of each calendar quarter, which would be March, June, September, December, or each quarter starting from the time the entity was established? I also brought up the fact that the provision is silent to the amount of time that is allowable for the report following the end of the quarter, regardless of the answer. Moreover, it is silent to whether there are consequences should reports not be submitted to my office at all or in a timely fashion. Therefore, what is the amount of time allowed to submit a report following the end of a quarter? What consequences are there for failure to file these quarterly reports? A final matter involved the issue of what is required if no signatures or additional signatures are in hand at the end of the quarter. So, if no signatures have been collected between the establishment of the entity and the first reporting dates, it is still necessary to file a report stating that no signatures have been collected. In addition, no additional signatures are collected between one quarter and the next report required that no additional signatures were collected. In addition, also, should the report reflect the number of signatures from the previous report, or should the report be zero? And these are just questions that were posed, Now, and my answer to that, as you are aware, the functions of my office are primarily ministerial. I am not granted the authority to render legal opinions on election statutes and certainly not a county charter provision. To this end, my counsel and myself researched the statutes and rules to determine the proper party to render such an interpretation. While statute section 106.23 paren 2 in the Florida statutes authorizes the Florida Secretary of State Division of Elections to provide such opinions, that authority is clearly limited to the provisions or violations of Florida election laws with respect to such actions as a supervisor has taken or proposes to take. The actions I am tasked with are the following ministerial duties: issuing a dated receipt, simply acknowledging that the proposed language and proposed form have been delivered to my office. 2, verifying signatures pursuant to 6.1.1 and 7.3.2 of the Charter. Further, these provisions are in the Wakulla County Charter, not Florida election laws. Nonetheless, I reached out to the Division of Elections and have been advised that the Division does not render opinions on county charter provisions or ordinances. As such, the answer to these questions may lie with the attorney for the BoCC or the Attorney General of Florida. For these reasons, I believe it appropriate that I ask that the Board request an opinion from your county attorney or have the county attorney request an Attorney General's opinion on these questions. Thank you for your attention to this.
Or in other words, don't blame Buddy.
Don't blame Buddy.
Point of order. Point of order. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you just had dialogue. Previously, in this meeting, in these meetings of the board, when there were presentations, commissioners were allowed to ask questions of the presenters.
As I understood it, the presentations and the citizens to be heard are the sections that we were going to allow them to speak, but then we didn't respond. Now, I'm going to ask
The citizens
David-
to be heard is that,
Only that?
not presentations.
Okay,
I'll usually-
only,
Just for comparison, if a commissioner had a question for a presenter, I usually allow it.
okay. So I'm going to open it up,
And has
I'm going to open
everyone-
up the questions to Buddy then as well with the presentation.
I think it was-
Yeah, no, and that, I was just, I don't know if you were aware of it, but I was shut off of asking a question of the
Yes, I
previous
was.
person.
Yeah.
So, I
Your
mean,
point's been made, Commissioner Kestner. Do you have any questions for, Mr. Wells?
no, I did not have any. Well, I might. To your awareness, is the Wakulla Wetlands Alliance in compliance with your office?
Well, under political committee, yes, sir. They've met all the requirements.
Thank you.
Nothing else?
Nothing else?
And to the prior person,
And
I'll ask
also-
separately. I'll go after the meeting, I'll catch up.
Mhm.
I talked to Heather about this earlier, and I guess what basically how she explained to, if the board wants to establish specific procedures for that under the guidelines of the charter, we could do so by ordinance or resolution. If we wanted to set cutoff dates and whatever, but I agree with her that the language is pretty vague, I guess. It says quarterly reports. You could turn them in 5 years from now, though. It doesn't say
Yeah.
whatever.
And I guess one of the things, and I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, if I might, I appreciate that, and I think that that's one of the areas that probably needs clarification, because we don't need to go through ambiguity.
And another area I think needs clarification, not to get too far off the subject, is there is no entity to approve the referendum language. So in other words, Buddy just accepts it. I could say whatever I wanted to say on the referendum language. Right now, if you like the medical marijuana thing, for example, the Supreme Court has to approve the ballot language, so it's not misleading or it's not. It gets to the gist of the issue. We don't have a procedure for that, I don't guess.
Well, I mean, that's being challenged, that's why the Supreme Court's going to be...
The county can challenge ballot language and it would go forward.
Well,
Well,
but I mean, there's no procedure to say, do you, or I think there should be some outside entity like a judge or something to look at the ballot language. There is.
If the county got a charter amendment or a proposed referendum and you disagreed as a board with that, you could direct us to challenge it as misleading or vague or whatever.
Let's just say we didn't want to do that. Let's just say we just wanted a procedure so Howard or the Wetland Alliance had some assurances that they wouldn't be challenged, that they could be reviewed. That's all I'm saying. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, but I think one of the things that's troubling me, I know one of the things that's troubling me, is that we as a board in a chartered county should understand that that means additional citizen participation in our government. And it appears that the majority of people on this board, and I may be misinterpreting it, but especially with regards to the last board meeting and the discussion that took place, it appears to me, and maybe to others in the public, that our board is concerned about how to shut down a citizen petition drive on technicalities. And this is of concern.
That's not my intention.
I would like to
I've got a
also,
comment.
I would like to comment on that, and then we're going to move on, Commissioner Kessler. Those questions that was presented at the last board meeting concerning this were not presented by the commission. Those questions were presented by a citizen, is what Mr. Buddy Wells responded to. But anyway, we can discuss this some more at length at the end of it, but we're going to move on ahead with the meeting.
May I comment as well?
Yes, go ahead.
You know, it clearly says, and I admit that it's ambiguous and that needs to be cleaned up and put specific dates in there, but it clearly says quarterly reports shall be filed. And so, I mean, if you consider following the rules a technicality, then, you know, I beg to differ with you. I think we need to make sure that we're following the rules. No one's trying to suppress the citizens' input. We have a charter, and we need to be following that charter. And I don't think that that's any kind of technicality. If it says a quarterly report shall be filed, then I think we need to either take that out of there or we need to file those reports. It's just that simple.
Ms. Heather, the wording of this wetlands discussion, when it goes on the ballot, who determines the wording? What is the check and balance on the wording when that issue goes to the ballot?
The group pushing it would determine the ballot wording. If this board disagreed with it, you would have standing to challenge it as misleading or violating single subject, or if those grounds were there. But that would then go to court for determination of whether the ballot was proper.
And when you say the board, is that 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, or 5 out of 5?
Majority.
Majority. Very good.
Okay, like I said, we're going to just discuss this again maybe at the end, but I'm going to move on ahead with the consent items. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion made and seconded to approve consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we had item number 3 that was pulled.
Yes, tab 3. This agenda item requests board approval of the Gulf Tourism and Seafood Promotional Grant Award for RFP 2013-23 Destination Management System, and approval for the chairman to execute the contract. The director of the TDC is here today if y'all have any questions concerning this.
Do we have any citizens to speak on this?
Well, I need a nomination first.
Okay.
A motion, you mean?
A motion, yes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and second. Nominate. All in favor?
Hold it.
Go ahead. Any discussion?
I pulled it. I pulled it for discussion.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I pulled it for discussion because when I asked who drew up the legal documents, I was informed that our county attorney had been significantly involved with it. It is my understanding that there was prior board direction that TDC would have their own attorney, and at least the heavy lifting on the drawing up of legal documents would come from the TDC attorney. This did not happen, and I'm just calling it to the attention, possibly in the future, and maybe with some haste, that the TDC get on their side an attorney that represents them.
Is it simply because they don't have an attorney yet? That you stepped forward and did it? Do we have any skin in the game on this one, I guess, I mean, is there a good reason for us to review it, or are we completely isolated from it?
It's for a TDC website. I mean, typically, a TDC would have an attorney that would do it, and I would always review it if it's coming to this board. But it might be a more high-level cursory review.
So this is just to encourage the TDC to move forward with the direction that the board had given in the past to obtain an attorney, obtain counsel. So that's it.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor for the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion
Thank you.
passes.
The next item was the add-on item that we had. We request board approval of, excuse me, a letter of support for St. Mark's grant application for the 2014 EPA Brownsfield Cleanup Grant. This is the same letter with a little deviation in where we took it out, but the same letter we presented last year. For
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion approved, second. If there's no more discussion, okay, all in favor for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Okay, there's no more add-on items, right, for consent? Okay. All right, next we're going to move on to general business. David?
Okay. Whoops, hold on. All right, I'm all messed up here. That's okay. Next item is agenda item number 8. This is to request board approval of an agreement with the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth for providing one-stop approach to community center programs and services. The board had tasked us to come up with an agreement with WCCY for the operations of the community center. We have done that. The details of the contract is attached, and we're ready to move forward as long as the board is ready to go. So,
Motion to approve the agreement.
second.
Motion made and second. If there's no discussion, all in favor?
I had mentioned something to David about the maintenance threshold. Is that something you can change without having to?
I don't want to change it this date,
Right.
but we'll have to apply for this, or this will come back before you guys in July as they get new grant dollars, and that's something we
I
can
guess you can
change
talk with
up.
Gail in the meantime.
Yeah, and we'll
Nothing
work
major.
that out with Gail. There's
nothing
no
major.
big deal, Gail.
Okay, all in favor for the motion?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay,
All
next.
right. Item number 9, tab 9, request board approval resolution appointing members to the Wakulla County Charter Review Commission. Pursuant to 7.4 of the Wakulla County Home Rule Charter, no later than July 1st, 2015, and every 8th year thereafter, the BoC must establish a Wakulla County Charter Review Commission. You guys have tasked us with moving forward with that item. I'd like to at this time present you with your individual, with your rankings, so that we can carry this. Staff recommends that after review with our attorney, our county attorney, and some recent court rulings on this type of voting, that we request that you guys consider the top or three of you nominating 3 of the candidates, each commissioner nominating 3 candidates, therefore making that would make 15. And/or as we noted in our discussions individually in the today in our pre-agenda meeting, there was City of St. Mark's has expressed that they would like to have some participation as well. I've mentioned that to you guys as well, that you could throw all this out and add that in there. I would not recommend that, as this was already this is a solid slate of individuals, and it's fairly well represented in the county.
I'll make a motion to approve the ranking list based not on the ranking the way it was done in the agenda overall points, but rather using each individual commissioner's top picks to establish the committee as you outlined in our meeting.
What, define top picks?
In other words, if I pick person X number 1, my top 3 people maybe that would be my 3 picks. Let's say Jerry picked the same person as his number 2, so we can't have that person on there twice, so it defaults to his number 4, and so forth and so on. So all 5 of us have at least 3 people that's in our top 4 or 5 on the committee.
And that's the way the rankings that you just got, the overall list, and that's the way that was, just went through 1, 2, 3, and if someone was bumped, it went to the next commissioner's next lowest number, or not bumped, but if there was a duplicate in there.
Is this the sheet we're voting on?
No.
Those are your top rankings.
Those are
and
your top rankings.
If you guys want to make any changes to what you have, that's fine. We can do that at this time.
Yeah.
And then, if not, before we vote, we do want to read the names off so that they can be properly put into the resolution.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion made and second to use the top 3.
Well, you can use, as individual commissioners, you have the authority. You can change up who you have on there if you want to at this time, or you can go with ones that are, the ones that were there based on that. That's your call.
So if whoever represents St. Mark's wants to put a member, I don't know if there was somebody here from St. Mark's.
No, I don't know.
So, is there any more discussion, or David, sir, David, let me ask you a question. Are you wanting each of us to read who our 3 is for the record?
Well, I think if you guys will if you'll just tell me you're either okay or not with your 3, I'll read the total, the sheet out. If you've got a change, we need to talk about that change.
I'm okay with mine.
I'm okay with my 3.
I'll make a change.
Okay.
I'm going to make number 1 Mitch Hampton,
Okay.
number 2 Bill Russell, and number 3 Don Grimes.
Okay.
Did that duplicate anybody else's?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Kastner.
I'm okay with my 3.
Dave, would you mind reading the revised
All right.
list?
This is in no particular order or no particular rank. So these are the 15 are Chuck Hess, Judith Harris, Verna Brock, Don Grimes, Mitch Hampton, Bill Russell, R.H. Carter, Larry Taylor, John Schuff, Mike Stewart, Becky Black, Ronald Fred Crum, Donnie Crum, Bob Danzy, and Chris Russell.
I believe this is probably a fair way to do it. Now, in this particular situation, just do it by commission. If Mr. Stewart decides not to participate because of health reasons with his family, just default to the next poor person who's on my list.
All right.
But I hope...
Therefore, I would, do we need to amend the motion to include that as the...
So amended.
Okay, motion's amended. Do you second the amended motion, Commissioner Kastner?
Yes.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We have some citizens to speak on this issue. Okay, first citizen is Bob Danzy.
My name is Bob Danzy. Thank you for letting me speak. As long as y'all okay with how you come up with them, it doesn't make me any difference. But here's what I don't think I like. I don't like the taste of this. And that is that we've had a way to do this for a pretty long time. And until something come up and somebody call, hey, this ain't fair, being Commissioner Kessler, I didn't get nobody on there. This ain't fair. Then y'all, well, we'll change the rules of ranking for him a little bit. See, if it was the other way around, I will assure you there would be no give. There would be no rule change. It'd just be the way it had been. So precedence takes over now. Seems like, I think I heard this right. The attorney, or either David said something about that there was case law or something like that. I don't, it seemed like I heard something like that. Well, guess what? There's precedence that is set at this board of how you do things. And you've been picking these committees the same way for a long time, but now this one we're going to change. Hey, in disclaimer, I was on it and I'm still on it, so I have no problem personally. And I suppose somebody got kicked off, they might, but it's not about that. This is The reason I got up here and came was for principle and principle only. Do what you're doing, and that's fine, but principle-wise, you compromise those principles so that somebody that yelled, "This ain't fair," got included, when they wouldn't have done that for you. Thank you.
Okay, our next citizen is Hugh Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to address Mr. Danzy's criticism first of all. I was on about precedents. I was on 2 committees. Each commissioner got a pick. Public Records and the Wetlands Committee, both. Each commissioner picked a member of a 5-member committee. And as far as I know, that's the precedence. You know, other comments to the contrary. Here's what, and I congratulate you tonight for following precedents, okay? Here's the thing about voting. I have never personally refused to sign anyone's petition when they ran for office, regardless of the fact whether I would vote for them or not. I believe I signed the chairman, Mr. Chairman's, in Hudson Park one day. So, I mean, it's not about the right to vote. The right to vote is a right to vote, you know. And these scare stories and this and that and the other, it's just not, it's like this wetlands, public records, precedents, all that stuff. It's not quite true. I believe the communists call it disinformation. And I really congratulate you, but here's where you were heading. This is, Mr. Thomas, you're a numbers man, so you'll appreciate this. Here you go. On the original, the committee that was presented on the original agenda for this evening, 2 families controlled 26.6% of the vote. 1 real estate firm controlled 13.3% of the committee vote. Between them, they controlled 40% of the vote from 3 entities. I think that's the case law and the situation that Mr. Edwards and the county attorney are referring to. You know, fair's fair. And here's another interesting fact. 85% of the members were in Districts 3 and 4. No one from District 1. And the others were, you know, just split. I congratulate you for doing it this way, and but I wasn't even going to speak. But this stuff about precedents and voting and this and that and the other, it needed to be addressed. And thank you for letting me speak.
Our next citizen is William Anderson.
I'd just like to say there was no precedent. This is the first time under the charter that you've had a committee, so you're setting the precedent with this. Also that Commissioner Kessler, I don't think, was objecting to this at all as to the change. The county attorney was pointing out the courts thought this was seriously flawed and was directing you all to tell you that the way you were doing it is flawed and therefore you needed to do it a different way. That's the reason it's being changed. In addition to that, now that you have a properly, I think, composed committee, I would suggest that you consider changing Section 3D of your resolution, which provides basically that the duty of the committee is to hold 2 public hearings to get citizens' input on their proposals, what they want to change. I suggest you broaden that to allow citizens' input of their own, whether it's on the committee's proposals or whether they have their own proposal, as to open it up for citizens to give input to the committee on what charter provisions they think should be changed, and as you have stated, on the committee's proposals. Thank you.
I got a couple questions for Heather. Richard, good.
All right.
Is there any citizens? I'm sorry.
I got a few more citizens. After the citizens, we'll get back to the questions. Okay, next citizen is Dana Peck.
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. I think if I were going to rig a committee, I would have used the process that you used to what apparently seems to have rigged the committee. But there is emerging, as we go door to door with the wetlands collecting petitions, and I'd like to tell you now that we have almost 5,000, if not more than that, so we're headed into glory land. But it's becoming very apparent to us that the people in this county are looking at the makeup of this commission as a gang of four that are running roughshod over the will of most of the people of this county. And this original committee couldn't say it any clearer. Only 2 districts here held more than 80% of the committee members. 3 districts were virtually unrepresented. And you might have let it go forward, had it not been for your county attorney, to have no representation from all the people in this county, but representation from a small group of people who are bent to control this county for benefits not going to the masses. So I would just like you to think about this and your growing reputation of what you're doing. You didn't represent the city of Sopchoppy on your committee with the process, the rigging process that you used. You didn't represent the city of St. Mark's. There's no one on there to speak for Wakulla Springs, the #1 tourist attraction of this county. This is a small group of people trying to have heavy-handed control. In my heart, I wish you'd vote for what you did, because it just solidifies what your reputation is becoming.
Now, before I hear this again, did you recommend we do this because of flawed policies? We could have went ahead just the way we had it, right? We wouldn't have broken any law. It's not, you didn't come to us and recommend, look, you guys need to do it different because it's flawed.
The recommendation was based upon, I don't really want to...
Well, it's being portrayed that we're a gang of 4 out to hoodlumize somebody, and you stepped in and you stepped in with shining armor and said, you guys can't do this. It's against the law.
No, that is not the case. We merely recommended a different way of doing it. I made this motion because I thought it was a fair thing to do, not because somebody kowtowed me into doing it. Just be clear about that. Sorry about that.
That's right. I'm going to read these last 2 cards, and then we'll open back up for discussion. Okay, we have Chris Russell.
All right, so this is like the House of Commons. We go back and forth. We go this way, we go that way. Let me clear up some things right now, some facts. St. Mark's could not be on there. Am I wrong? Sopchoppy could not be on there. Am I wrong? County Attorney?
It calls for 15 electors of the county.
And it excludes those cities, as well as people working for the county, things that need to be changed in the charter. Sounds like we need some people to go out and read the charter a little bit more. The fact of the matter is, and I disagree somewhat with Bob on this, the Restore Act was done the same way. Am I wrong? Same selection process. The Restore Act was done this way. So the precedent's already been set.
We've done it both ways before.
But the fact it said that it hadn't been done, it's been done. I applaud you for doing this. When you look at it, it doesn't look like it would have swayed out the right way. Y'all asked for 30 citizens to stand up and volunteer. 30 did. I don't know what their districts were or whatnot, but y'all called out the people. 30 people came forward. Unfortunately, when the rankings came down, one commissioner chose only to rank 9, left 21 of them out there hanging. I don't understand that when citizens try to move forward to help, why they don't get at least a ranking, but that doesn't matter. Bob, I disagree with you. It's not the commissioner's pick. It's about the people. It really is. I mean, I like you. We get along great, but we're not here to be your pick, your pick, your pick, your pick. We're here to be their pick. We're here to be a conduit for them. I hope that we can find a way to do some web-based stuff to bring in comments and whatnot. Mr. Anderson, I agree totally. We got to have meetings. We got to have folks that come in there. We need to move forward on this. This thing is needing to be put to rest, but the fact of the matter is folks need to read the charter and get to know it. It's coming. There's going to be changes. Let's make the best of it as we can. It's a good charter. It just needs tweaking. We need to get our cities involved. We need to give some other opportunities, maybe the constitutional as well. So I hope that clears it up. Those are all facts. I have the charter right here if anyone wants to look at it afterwards. Thank you.
I have this final card. All someone put for name was Charter Commission, and their address is Hop Choppy. So I don't know who that is. So I'm just gonna put that in a stack. And I'm gonna open it up for discussion among commissioners. Well, but he didn't put his.
Well, did you put in the card?
Larry, is this yours? Did you write Charter Commission instead of your name? This is yours. Well, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, but next time be sure to put your name on there.
Okay. Well, I was in a hurry. Gentleman, Larry Roberts, Stop Choppy. I listen to Preston Scott frequently, and he has a saying that he likes to repeat. That just because it's legal doesn't make it right. And this, the way you went about coming up with that list of 30 is not right. It was flawed to start with, and the resultant unscrambling or scrambling of those names are just as flawed as what it was before you made those changes. But as usual, I'm here speaking to myself, I guess, because I know your mind's made up, not to confuse you with what the public wants. And frankly, I'm getting a little too old to come up here and argue and put up with the aggravation. The deck was stacked. I mentioned that when this proposal to have this committee was made some weeks ago, some months ago maybe, and it certainly was stacked. Anybody that looks at it would, I would think, would come up with that conclusion. My next comment will say to the citizens out there in TV land, as I said, I know how you're going to vote. You're going to vote. It's going to be 4-1. But to the citizens out there, need to get involved, to sign the wetlands petition. Encourage your friends and family to do so also. My next comment was going to have to do with Dr. Kessler's appointees not having anybody on there. You've changed that, but there again, it's flawed. It was to start with, and it still is. Dr. Kessler pulled a majority of the voters, otherwise he wouldn't be here. And his voters were not represented before you made that change. You could say that the other 4 of you had the majority also, and that would be correct. However, in Dr. Kessler's case, his supporter knew Dr. Kessler, and they knew what they were getting when they voted for him. You guys were new guys, and they had no idea who you were, and I don't think when you run again that they will make that same mistake again. With that, I suppose I'll end it. Thank you.
All right. You did second my motion, didn't you?
I certainly did.
All right, so we have the motion and second. Do we have any more discussion among commissioners?
I got a question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Howard.
No, it's okay.
Would it be possible, and again, this is not from any kowtowing from any citizen or anything, but I did get a call from Zoe Mansfield concerned about St. Mark's. Is there any way maybe we could, if they wanted to, have a non-voting person be at these charter review committees, at least to...
They'll be open to the public.
Okay.
We can't have any.
Each city could elect, each city could ask the citizen to serve, to at least go attend all the meetings. And that's up to that city.
But are they allowed at these public meetings to have to speak, or?
Well, they'll be just like any other public meeting. They have to have, public has to speak twice at those meetings. Have the ability to speak twice at those meetings.
I don't think the charter made a provision, did it? That's what y'all were saying earlier.
No, it doesn't.
It's just 15 elections.
That's one of the things we need to We need to clear up if that doesn't work.
And the reason, you know, the school board has a non-voting position on the planning commission. That's the only reason I said.
Right.
It specifically excludes employees of any Wakulla County local governments from being on the committee, so we couldn't have an employee from either of those cities on there or a county employee.
Well, it was mentioned earlier that it couldn't, somebody from the city could not be on there. I guess they meant a city employee, not a person that lives in the city limits. Okay.
That's correct.
Right.
Yep.
That's
Do we have any more discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Gaspar?
yeah, let me begin with the, just a demonstration. Let me begin with the demonstration of what visually the original scenario would have looked like. Here's the 15-member Charter Review Committee as it would have been had not this change taken place. 46% would have been from District 3 and District 4. 46 and 40, 86%.
Do you have a new pie chart?
No, I don't. I don't
Okay.
do things that quickly, but, and the 7% from District 5 represents one person, and the 7% from District 2 represents one person, and the red pie section, which doesn't exist, represents District 1. And then the numerical total is down at the bottom if you're interested in. That's what would have been. I don't think anyone would have thought that would have been an equal and fair distribution for the county. And I'll make some other comments, but before I do, I want to address the comments made by a citizen who now repeatedly, and I guess we can get used to it, enjoys apparently making false statements. So just to be clear, I did contact the county administration when this was starting, before anybody ranked anything and turned in anything. And I expressed that I did not feel this was going to lend itself, that original system, to a fair system. After things were rated and things were put out there, I made no comment to the county administrator on changing the system. And so the question is, why did I not rate all 30 people? And I think that is a legitimate question to ask. I only ranked 9. And I'll tell you why. I thought it was very difficult for me, knowing that people who had been, and possibly still are, anti-charter government, to rank them, to be on a committee that was going to be helping our citizens in their charter government. I found it difficult to rank some people, such as the citizen who got up here tonight, who makes false statements. And I came to the conclusion that I would pick approximately 1/3 of the very best picks that I could pick, and so be it. What it ended up doing also was sort of counterintuitive to my not having ranked everyone, because everyone I didn't rank got a 0, and that placed them high on the schedule. So that's what it was. But
cut off your nose and spite your face.
yeah, well, but the administration could have assigned everyone a 15 for me, and that would have equaled things out also, I guess. But whatever. But I think it also lent itself to, I didn't want to, especially in people I really didn't know, put a score on them and make it a public accounting of, I'm going to rank this person 29 or 30 out of 30. And that's pretty embarrassing. And I'm going to pick one person who received a ranking of 29, and I didn't speak to him, and I didn't say that I'm allowing him, I didn't ask him permission to do this, but I'm going to possibly embarrass him. Maybe I'll embarrass the board. I just don't understand how somebody can rank a person such as Ron Pisecki, who has given over a decade of his time and energy to this county, who is the inspiration for our infrastructure committee that he chaired and Mr. John Schuff chaired, who is our present chairman of our code enforcement board. He's given much to this county, and to rank him a 29 out of 30 is embarrassing and I think shameful. Now, this is new territory that the board is entering with the charter. And we're apt to get some things a little fuzzy. And that's part of the question of what's the rush, but we're already rushing. You know, we didn't have to establish this committee this evening, but we're going to. And we didn't have to establish the committee this year, but we're going to. But there may have been some value in less haste and in doing some of this sort of preliminary work in maybe a workshop or something to decide how to go about these things, even setting up how to go about choosing the committee. I guess it's part of the process of living and learning. So I guess that winds up most of my comments. You know, part of the thing that we might have looked at when we had workshops was getting input from people who in the past had voiced anti-charter sentiment, maybe even voted against the charter, and now find out why they're wanting to be on this charter committee and why they think they would be a contributing factor. That might have been interesting to know before we picked our people. Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, the Wetlands Committee, was it done the same way as this, or rankings? Does anybody remember?
Each commissioner selected one.
Yeah, and I want to make one last point on what will be going forward, is on the Wetlands Committee, which sort of operated for almost a year, if not a full year. They had, I believe, at least one, if not two times during that meeting where there was a spot for citizens to speak, and there were multiple times over months where citizens could have input. And I would encourage that for this same process, that it not be just two public hearings, that the county citizens have an opportunity to participate, but in all of the meetings of the Charter Review Committee's meetings. Thank you.
Richard, I have something.
Do we have any more discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Basically, I have a question. You're going on 12 years on the committee, on the board. Are you saying this is the first time that this kind of rating has ever been done? And if it's not the first time it's been done, why are you complaining now?
To make it clear again, I'm not the complainer that initiated
You are
this.
complaining.
I am saying we could have done things better. Commissioner Moore, I think you can do things better by apologizing when you're wrong, but I think we can do things better.
I'll ask another question. Are any of these first 15 people that were on this list, were any of those people on your Wetlands Committee?
I have no idea. I did not analyze it.
Why then are some of these people, if it's a fair system, why are some of these people not on your Wetlands Committee? It goes both ways.
How many people were on the Wetlands Committee?
I have no idea.
Okay, that goes back to the same question you're asking me.
I'm just asking you how many people of the first 15 here
I have no idea, Commissioner Moore. I did not make that analysis.
I can probably tell you 0.
And so what does that mean?
It means that each committee can choose who they choose.
Let's see, Commissioner Thomas, you said you had a...
Yeah, absolutely. Man, we need to give out a few drama awards tonight, I guess. This thing is getting way out of control. You know, man, so many accusations that I could address here, but this is what really happened. We were asked to rank a list of people, a list of people after it was publicly noticed for volunteers to come forward who were willing to serve. Every one of the 30 people that are willing to serve were willing to give of their time and their talents to be on this committee. Now, we can't go and grab, you know, a certain number from each district. We can certainly try. We can encourage that, but this is a result of volunteers who are willing to serve. And, you know, I don't know if you've noticed, but this might be a little controversial. So there might be a lot of people who don't want to subject themselves to such a thing. But I thank each and every one of them for volunteering. And we were tasked with taking that list of volunteers and simply ranking them in the order that we would personally select. You know, if anybody stacked a deck, I stacked my list, and that's what we were tasked to do. And that's what all 5 of us were tasked to do. There was no stacking of the deck. If you didn't have enough representation, you like to harp on the fact that there was no one from District 1, but if you didn't have enough people to get on the list, then maybe you didn't stack your deck. Maybe you didn't have enough volunteers that were willing to serve. You know, and even these numbers that we end up with, you skewed those numbers because you weren't willing to rank those people. And so every number was skewed, and so just because that's what came to us tonight is not what any of us tasked staff to bring us. It's not what any of us agreed to do. That's what we were just asked to do, to come up with a ranking, and that's what we did. So it doesn't warrant all this level of criticism and drama, and I know it's a great opportunity to jump on that, but it's unfounded. I know I've heard from many citizens, Commissioner Kessler, that I think you probably called everyone on this list, or a lot of them. You called them and spoke in detail, and then you want to defend Mr. Pasecki, and I appreciate the job he's done as well, but these people that you called and you interviewed didn't even warrant being ranked number 30 on your list. If you think they were anti-charter, put them at the bottom. Every citizen in this county, their vote is just as important as each other. Whether they're pro-charter, anti-charter, whether they want to make changes or leave everything alone or stick their head in the sand, it doesn't matter. Every citizen that's registered to vote has a vital input. And so I think that you are insulting the citizens of this county by that, and you know, I regret that. But you know, I think we probably ended up with a fair system. You know, I knew when this thing first came out that there's a chance that it wasn't going to be equally weighted. I spoke to several people and knew that there's a chance that whatever this came up with, this wasn't going to be the final cut. And obviously tonight we ended up with something that wasn't anywhere close to what this list started out. So to take the opportunity and to make this big theatrical production, I think is just nothing more than just drama. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the whole idea of establishing a charter committee or any committee that's going to do work for our county should have at its very basis, fairness. The way this started off, I think everybody can agree, if that list was approved, would have been unfair.
I'm not gonna agree with you on that.
You don't have to comment to it. I'm just saying, fairness should trump the issue. And I think that we moved in a better direction tonight, or we're moving in a better direction tonight.
Real quick
Mr.
comment.
No, hold on. No, I just want to address that. Okay, I'm going to speak on it. I ranked all 30. Okay, even though there was some, you know, but I took the time to rank each and every one of the ones that was on there, even though I knew only 15 of the ones that was there. You know, and you've already acknowledged, Mr. Commissioner Kessler, that you only ranked 9 of them. You know, so you didn't even rank all 30, but you're saying that we were the ones that weren't fair. You know,
I said the system was unfair. I didn't call you unfair, Mr. Harden.
That's the way I...
No, I'm not calling you... No, please be clear. I am not calling you unfair. I think the system was fair. You know, I could ask you, did you call the 15 that you didn't know?
Did I call the 15 I didn't know?
Yeah.
No, because most of them I've known for years.
I went through the process of trying to, while I was struggling with how I was going to rank these people, some of them I didn't know. Some of them I wanted to know why they wanted to be on the charter. So I made an effort, and I called a great many of the people. I don't think I called all of them, but I called a great many of them. That's what I felt I had to do as a county commissioner before I did a ranking. Now, my decision to only rank 9 was my decision, because I felt ranking the 30 would have contributed to an unfair system.
Do we have any more discussion before we vote?
Just real quick, I think when a member of this board, i.e. me in this case, tries to offer a compromise to make a situation better, maybe we should just move on with that and not talk about what could have been. I think I did what I thought was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You seconded it. I think you're going to vote for it. We
Yep.
could have been done with this 30 minutes ago.
You got
Just
it.
a point of order.
Okay, if there's no more discussion, all in favor for the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
See there, pass 5-0.
5-0 vote. Okay, next, David.
Hold on just a second. Next agenda item is local preference. Excuse me, I had to get I was doing some math there. Request board approval to amend section 4.8 of the county purchasing policy relating to local preference. At the last meeting, Commissioner Merritt, he asked staff to come up with a proposal to try to incorporate some language in our, we're in the process of updating our purchasing policy to have some language to help encourage contractors outside of the county to use our local vendors and also our subcontractors. In light of that, we came up with some language that we believe will do it. At the end of in our purchasing policy, which is a section on local preferences attached to your agenda item 4.8 subsection B paragraph 2, we're going to add the last sentence to that that'll say, or a business that commits in its response to a competitive procurement to utilize local businesses as defined in B1 above as subcontractors or material providers for at least 35% of the total contract amount. What that means is any of the local or the area contractors such as Tallahassee, Leon County, Gaston County, Jefferson County, Franklin County, they come in and bid on one of our projects. If they utilize 35% of our local vendors and or subcontractors, that they will receive a 4% discount on there'll be 4% credit on their bid at bid opening. If they did not do that, on the other section they would get 3% because they are touching our county. And then our local preference stays the same at a job over $200,000 at 5% local preference, and under $200,000 at 10%. That 10% is fairly heavy. I've talked to each one of you guys about possibly adjusting that and just going to a 3, 4, and 5, but that is totally up to you guys.
You want to save that issue for a different day, or you want to address it now?
We'll bring it back.
We'll bring it back. We'll bring it back. I don't want to
I
cloud
would
it.
make the motion to approve amended section 4.8 related to local preference options.
Second.
Have a motion made and second. We had one citizen to speak on this issue, Mr. William Anderson.
Thank you. The agenda request under background says that you've requested this to be looked at without creating a burden on the taxpayers. What is proposed creates a tremendous burden on taxpayers. One of the things which was just mentioned is increasing the local preference from 5 to 10%. What that means basically...
That is not correct. That's not correct.
Well, I looked on your site for under the procurement policy now and compared that with what is attached to the agenda, and the information at the end of A1, starting for those projects estimated to be less than 200,000. If that is not being added, then your county website is incorrect.
That is not being that's already in there.
Okay, well, then your website is incorrect under the procurement
That was one of the things
policy.
I was suggesting, that we will address that at a future date.
Okay. I still think that even that amount, as you said, is a very heavy burden, 10%. What that means is that if someone that's not a local business would bid 200,000, or excuse me, 180,000, you have to accept the bid of a local person bidding 200,000, 20,000 more. That would be a tremendous burden.
That is going to be changed.
It certainly should be. Another couple things just for you to think about. It provides that who is a local business is the sole discretion of the purchasing agent. There's no definition under your policy for what is a purchasing agent, but it should not be the sole discretion. You have a bid challenge provision, which I think is 5.16, that talks about how a contractor or anyone bidding under this can challenge it. They ought to be able to challenge whether someone is a local business or whether they're not. It should not be under the sole discretion of the purchasing agent, which is undefined as to who that is. In addition to that, the provision provides that if there's a tie, the local business gets preference, but you have three definitions of local business: a B1, a B2, and a B3. So I think you need to further clarify to say if there's a tie, the B1 business prevails over a B2 business, a B2 business prevails under a B3 business. That's not specified now at all.
That was all part of our updates we're going to be bringing back to you.
Okay, that's a good
I would
idea.
suggest that you get it updated and correct before you all pass
That's
it.
the
Would be
reason
my
we're bringing it back.
suggestion. Not considered tonight.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay, that's the only citizen we had to speak. Do we have any discussion?
Your point of, well, I'd
amongst
like
the,
some clarification, Mr. Chairman. What are we voting for then if we're bringing this back?
All I want is the proposed language as bolded and italicized in this agenda item.
And so what is the...
Which establishes a local preference as per what Commissioner Merritt had asked for, establishes the ability for someone out of town, a contractor from Tallahassee or Leon County or wherever, that would come in and utilize our material providers and or our county subcontractor base for at least 35%. That's what this does. All this does is says we're going to put that language in there. Then we've got a whole rash of changes for the purchasing policy. We wanted to go ahead and secure this to make sure you guys are okay with this, because this is a controversial item, and we were asked to come up with the best formula, and that's what this does.
We have to secure this in order to move ahead with the other. If we don't secure this, then there's no need, so...
No, that's not right. That's totally
clear-
separate. Totally
Yeah.
separate.
So what is the downside of getting everything together before we go and actually vote?
This was just what our opinion was, is that we felt like there would be enough focus. We wanted to focus on this because this was so important. We wanted to go ahead and focus on this and get this approved, and this is kind of one of our last changes to the document, and this was also an agenda item as per Commissioner Merritt.
So does this go into effect if we vote on this right now?
This will go into effect only when we bring the policy back to you guys.
Okay, and that's basically what I needed to
Whoa,
clarify.
back up. If we vote for this tonight, it doesn't go in effect?
All we're doing there is we'll be putting it into the policy to bring back to you guys to...
So it does not take effect?
No, we're approving it as to form. We'll bring the
Okay.
completely revised purchasing policy that we've been working on for a while with this language in it back for approval at a later date.
You do have the language in there about being able to challenge whether they're a local, whatever.
We'll work to clarify
Yeah,
that.
you need
We
to-
think it's clear, but some parts of that are clear and parts we're going to have to change to
Okay.
understand.
Because your purchasing policy is adopted by ordinance, y'all, so it has to come back as an ordinance.
Yeah, but just to make sure that the fact that somebody's local or not should be able to be challenged.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We have a whole host of changes.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, so that being clarified, this is a document that's being worked on. This is something that's added if the board agrees that it should be added to, but nothing is going to be approved until a final vote of the board when this comes back. And so, along with that, questions that I would like to have defined is how much do we bid out, average each year or over a 5-year period, and what would this local preference mean in additional payments of taxpayer dollars by the county if this is approved? So I would like to see that information before I would want to
Now,
vote
to be
on it.
completely fair, however, with that analysis, though, Dave would really have to go back and say, well, if we're giving local preference, how much additional sales tax or gas tax do we get by keeping those dollars in the county? There is a rationale to say, let's keep those dollars in the county because we get some of them back as a government instead of sending them to Atlanta or something like that. I understand your point. Does it cost something? Yes, it does. Do we get something back? Yes, we do. I don't know how you judge the offset, though.
And the offset may never be able to be judged.
Exactly.
And so, since we're not able to judge that variable, I think that's just sort of confusing the issue. And I'd like to see at least those gross numbers put together.
You will have that, as I talked to you today. Greg and Debbie are working on those numbers. In fact, we're going to go back as far as we have decent records and give you that, because it'll not only play into this equation, but also when we ask you guys about resetting our ITB bid limits, that's when that's going to play in and as well. And we need those statistics to show you to justify the increase in
We'd have to
those
look at
ITB
employment.
limits.
We'd have to look at all kinds of things like that too.
So I just want to go back and clarify again, because the option here at number 1 says approve the amended section 4.8 of the county purchasing policy relating to local preference options. Looks like, feels like to me, this gets changed tonight when we vote that in.
No.
How do we make it clear that this doesn't happen?
The language gets changed, but it comes back. It will come back to you guys in our amended purchasing policy.
I'll change my motion then to approve the language to amend section 4.8, if that'll relay
great.
your concern.
Okay, that'll help.
Who made the second?
I think I made the second. I'll go with that.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor for the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, next we're going to move into this. All right, next we're going to move to commissioner agenda items. First commissioner item is Commissioner Merritt.
I was approached by John Shuck. The chamber has went over the sign ordinance and had some concerns, and I agreed that I would try to do I can't even say the word, a workshop to go over the sign ordinance. So,
what did you say, Commissioner Merritt?
Just to be clear, is this an agenda item where you're requesting a workshop?
Yes, that's it. I told John I'd do it. So. Anyway, I'd like to schedule one maybe a month or two out, whatever, before a scheduled board meeting, maybe at 5. I don't know what's a good date.
Can we pick the date?
You pick the date, as long as it's on the day of a board meeting.
March
Yes.
or April?
You pick.
April
While y'all are picking the date, I have 2 citizens to speak on it too.
Okay.
April 7th?
April 7th at 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock.
Does that suit everybody?
Okay, was there a motion made?
Do we
Second?
motion
Have a
do we have
workshop on April 7th at 5 o'clock to discuss the sign ordinance the chamber would like to present there. It's only going to be an hour though, John, so it's going to have to be a brief, relatively brief finding
Second.
presentation.
We have a motion and a second on this item. I've got 2 people to speak. First is Chuck Robinson.
Thank you, Commissioners. Chuck Robinson, Wakulla County Chamber of Commerce, Government Commerce Chairman. I love this opportunity. Before, I think we had a contentious sign ordinance issue. I think a lot of businesses were upset about what the sign ordinance entailed. And after meeting with staff, especially Louis being so helpful, I mean, we really sat down and had some great meetings. And we knew that working forward, we could come up with the great compromise, if you will. And so I welcome this opportunity to have this workshop. I thank Randy Merritt for putting this on the agenda, and I think this is a great idea. What we come back with, I think will be happy for all parties involved, and it'll be a very positive experience. Thank you.
Okay, next to speak, I have John Sheff.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to, I didn't know Chuck was going to speak. I was going to say I was joined by Kevin Vaughn and Chuck Robinson here tonight. I want to thank Commissioner Merritt for putting the workshop, tough word, on the agenda.
It's very tough.
The ordinance, when the ordinance was re-implemented, we set up a committee to review and understand its effect on our small business community. Our committee found a number of areas that we thought we could improve the ordinance, ranging from definitions, impact on different areas of the county, and the ordinance or the management of the ordinance. We've met with the planning staff twice regarding these suggestions, and with their agreement, would like to now, and would look forward to having the workshop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So is this, how did this come about? Like, I know you mentioned John Schuff, but was this a committee on the chamber that wanted to go into this?
I think some time ago that they formed this committee in the chamber. Go ahead, John, if you want to explain.
Yeah, we just put together our own little committee. I mean, that's what we do as a Chamber of Commerce. We're interested in how things that you guys do affect our businesses.
So who were on the committee, more or less?
Myself, Chuck Robinson, Walter Dodson, Chuck Robinson, and we had several other people that just kind of, came and went with few items.
Kevin Vaughn.
Did I not say Kevin? I'm sorry. I meant to say Kevin.
Okay. Yeah. And because I know...
Rachel Pienta was also involved in a little bit.
Okay, well, let's see how the workshop goes.
Okay.
Okay, do I have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, next we have Commissioner Kessler
No.
on another workshop.
Can't be on April 7th.
Did I do that? Did I do April 7th?
Unless you want to have it earlier.
February 6th.
So this,
February 6th, yeah.
does that work?
Works for me.
Okay, well,
They have a meeting?
we don't have to have a lot of discussion on this if it looks like we're going to have a workshop. I'm not going to...
That's a what?
Workshop day.
We already have a workshop scheduled there?
That's our scheduled workshop
You mean it's
day.
a Thursday?
Yes.
Howard, can you do it on a scheduled board meeting day, please?
I can.
Well, I mean...
But are we going to eliminate that Thursday as being workshop day then, or?
No, if we're going to have it at 5, I think instead of having to drag the staff all the way out here again on whole nother day, and I don't want to pay them over, you know what I mean? Why not have it on the same day as the meeting?
I agree with
They
that.
can leave work, they can come over here, we'll do the workshop. Evelyn doesn't have to come all the way back on a Thursday, right, Evelyn? And
So,
Evelyn agrees with me.
So are y'all suggesting 4 o'clock then being
Will last longer than an hour.
5 o'clock?
I mean, if you want to make it at 4, Howard, if you think it's going to take 2 hours, 3, 2, 1, whatever you want to do.
I think an hour is sufficient.
Okay.
So that would be at 5 o'clock on a meeting day, is that what?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so what meeting day would that work?
Well, we already have one on the 3rd, a workshop on the 3rd, so what about the 18th,
That's fine.
February?
Thank you.
Okay, so the agenda item then would request to schedule a board workshop on February 18th, is that what was said? To discuss animal control.
Second.
So we have a motion made and second. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor for the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we have county attorney items. Heather, do you have any items? Okay, David, do you have any items? Okay, on the second portion of citizens to be heard, do we have anybody? We had Bill Russell that was going to speak. All right. Do we?
Do you and your son cooperate? You collaborate on who
All right.
speaks?
So
Some people assume they haven't never been at our
They think opposite.
okay.
You
so,
can-
so
you can bring
Bill,
your wife and
you're
your-
passing, right? Okay.
You can bring your wife and you'll get 9 minutes.
David, Jerry, we're going to move on. Okay, next citizen to speak, we're going to be Dana Peck. Now, okay, Dana, you spoke on an agenda item, but you didn't speak at the first
true.
citizens. Okay.
I saved it for now.
All right.
How about that? In part, so I could clarify some things to those who think they're the only ones that read the charter for Wakulla County. When talking about having on that first ever review committee for the charter, it was not having the city of Sopchoppy or the city of St. Mark's per se represented, but someone from Sopchoppy or someone from St. Mark's with an address there. So, but that's not why I wanted to come up tonight. As you probably know I'm one of the growing team of people who's going door to door, getting petitions signed to put the wetlands on the ballot in November so that everyone in this county can decide how they want their wetlands protected, whether they want it under the county control or whether they want to turn it over to the state. And as you know, if you've looked at the report that was made by the Wetlands Alliance, we are nearing the mark of 5,550. I'm going to impress upon you that number. That is 1 out of every 3 voters in this county has decided that they want to see this voted on in November. And to tamper with that and to mess with that in any way would certainly, again, incontrovertibly solidify this reputation of a trampling gang of 4. Because they always separate, who's that other one, they say. And when you go to door like it is, here's what's emerging from the people that I talk to when I go door to door, and I don't even go into the wetlands issue itself. It's just, do you want to let people vote or do you not? But people will say, well, you know, why won't they put it on the ballot, those commissioners? Well, those 4 commissioners decided not to put it on the ballot. They refused to put it on the ballot. And you hear the comment, you know, I'm not liking them. And they really are separating the 4 of you. You have been reckless in not having a workshop for the wetlands, a workshop with technical people who can tell you what you're doing when you try to remove these buffers. You have rejected, I bet, in your minds at the very least, to follow the advice of 3 state agencies that are telling you that this county needs its buffers for its wetlands. So go ahead and do what you want to do. But when you start messing with this very American, this petition drive is as American as turkey and pumpkin pie, because it is the American way when you don't like what your elected officials are doing. When you mess with them, you are solidifying your reputation.
Okay, next we have Bill Anderson speak.
Again, on the local business tax preference, listening to the discussion, I just wanted to make one other point, because I think an analysis should be done of what benefit there may be. But when you look at the definition, I think you'll see that there is no requirement if you get the 20%, and I realize that percentage could change, but that's a very high percentage. But to get that is only 2 things presently required under the thing, is you have a $55 business license from the county, which is the business tax receipt, and you have an office within the county. So if you spend $55, I believe, under the present definition, you can get up to $20,000 from the county over someone outside the county without a local preference. There is no requirement to have employees in the county, tax receipts in the county, etc. Just to have the $55 business license and an office in the county. When you consider it, please look into that. Thank you.
The office had to have been here 6 months.
6
all right?
months.
You can't just
And
go.
it's the principal address, which is where they're
You can't just go rent a
Secretary.
strip mall and say I'm local now.
That's true. The Department of State has a field in their incorporation documents called principal address, and that's what we look for the.
Right. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
our next citizen is Victor Lambu.
Thank you, Commissioners, and I chair the WWA, the Wakulla Wetlands Swim. And you are aware we submitted our year-end or our quarterly report that was due December, and you know that we're well on the way. I won't repeat what has already been said. We are not asking WWA members to decide or our local politicians to decide. We want the people to decide themselves. Let me repeat, we want the citizens to decide. What could be more democratic than that? What could be more democratic than that? Let me point out and it looks like from what I've heard the discussion, especially Mr. Thomas, you're looking for technicalities to get us off the ballot. We're not breaking any law or moral norm. That's all we want, is but good citizens to have their say. Yes, I'm insulted, and I believe it's not playing fair when one of our commissioners, Commissioner Thomas, makes such statements. Let me quote, and I'm quoting, "Did you know the wetlands petition is not against government, but against the people, but it's about a group of citizens against the people?" No, we're not against the citizens. Why, Commissioner Thomas, do you want to defame our citizens when we're availing ourselves of our constitutional rights? Yes, you have a right to say that our opinions are wrong, but do not impeach our motives. This is very wrong. Let me repeat again, it's very wrong. And such accusations, let me quote, "Did you know that people putting these petitions live in or near wetlands?" Yes, some of our members live near wetlands. What is wrong with that? They want their wetlands protected. But we don't have any members that live in wetlands, which you're very wrong in saying. I believe Commissioner Thomas is definitely against letting our citizens decide themselves. We believe that the citizens will make the correct decision. Evidently, some of our commissioners, 4 of them, do not trust our citizens to decide themselves. They evidently fear what our citizens may decide. We do not, we in the WA do not, and will live with it regardless of what they decide. And I thank you for allowing me to get this off our chest. But it looks, again, I'll say, some of you commissioners are looking for technicalities. We have obeyed the law, and we intend to obey the law. Yes, we're plowing new ground. And again, 30% is a lot of people. No other place in this state requires that. I think it's something like the highest is something maybe 5 or 6%. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on. If we don't have any more from county administrator or attorney items, we're going to move on into discussion items by commissioners. And is there more?
You have, I gave you a bunch of cards.
Oh, I thought I went through them all. Okay, I got one more. I got Chuck Robinson.
And there's Chris Russell.
There's Bill Russell.
I'm going to assume Chuck Hess is not here tonight.
There he is.
You're pinch hitting.
I stuck Chris. I stuck you down there whenever Bill didn't want it. All right. Yeah. All right now. Okay. Chuck Robinson.
Commissioners, thank you very much. As you know, there's been a flurry of activity at the Wakulla County One-Stop Community Center. There's all things coming together at once in a very quick pace. In fact, to kind of consolidate the information, we are putting together a microsite now, a micro website, if you will, so that citizens immediately begin to see what services will be provided through our different partners at the One Stop Community Center. Right now, if you go to wakullacommunitycenter.com, you will see a microsite that showcases some of our partners, and you'll also find a form, which is the more important part, because if you're currently a citizen that's interested in providing feedback to the community center or soliciting more information from one of the partners at the community center, this form is a perfect way for a citizen to, give us your name and email address, and we'll keep you informed about what's going to become available. And there's also a suggestion box, a questions box, when we have a responsive team ready to go, answer questions. So if it's anything from, yeah, I'd love to see this, to, hey, I really need help with my utility bill, I could really use that. So once again, the wakullacommunitycenter.com is up and live, and is a prelude to an even greater site which provides a lot more information, and it's going to be a really exciting opportunity for our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now, Chris Russell.
Thank you. I have a PowerPoint, but I don't know how you do it. Is there a clicker?
She'll give you a clicker right there if you walk right up there.
And I've given each of you a copy of the PowerPoint and some background.
Okay, Chris, just be sure, we got to fit within the 3 minutes.
Yeah, well, surely you're not counting this time right here.
Oh, yeah. On the clock, buddy.
Yeah.
Right.
everybody.
But for you,
Gotta keep it- hey, we gotta fit it within 3 minutes.
Technical difficulties aside, brother, you got 2 minutes. I'd start talking, Chris.
I've seen how you handled this with a speaker that's already left the room before, so I know I'm good.
Wah, wah, wah. Uh-oh.
All right, I'm not interested in wasting y'all's time or citizens' time anymore. Let's just go ahead and get it started. I had a PowerPoint I wanted to show you tonight. Last commission meeting I spoke and I advised that there were some issues with the petition versus charter. I guess I was false, but I was so false that y'all actually turned in quarterly reports. So thank you for following our charter. Still the question, does it meet a single subject requirement? The answer is no. Our charter says it shall be one subject. This petition deals with two. It has an ordinance and then it turns around and seeks to repeal and amend the procedures for an ordinance adopted by petition as directed in the county charter. Point being, the county charter already spells out how petition initiatives that become ordinance can be repealed or amended by the county commissioners. Now I'm way off on it. I'll just leave that up there. So the fact of the matter is now we have an amendment to the petition that will amend the Article 5 in there for the ordinance, and what it's going to do is it's going to actually weaken the requirements for the board to repeal that very petition. It makes it now where 5 of you can vote to repeal or amend it, where before the charter says right now you cannot do anything with it for 2 years, the succeeding general election. So we're so smart that we've actually made it now that a month later, if there's 5 of you voting together, you can repeal what you just put in place. This is a direct conflict with our charter. Our charter says you can't be inconsistent with the charter. This petition's inconsistent with this charter. It's a 2-subject item. It deals with amending our charter. It's an ordinance, and then it's an amendment of our charter. Those are 2 things. And then last but not least, as Section 1.3 of our charter says, ordinances by initiative shall not include ordinance or provisions relating to blah, 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 matters inconsistent with the charter. This is inconsistent with the charter. Here's a summary. Does the petition meet single subject requirement? No. It has 2 subjects, adopting an ordinance and changing procedures for amending and repealing such ordinance adopted by initiative. It's already in the charter. Does the petition amend the charter procedures? Yes, it does. Is the petition consistent with the county charter? Yes, the county charter already has procedures for amending a petition adopted by ordinance. Article 5 of that petition will change that. If passed without correcting issues brought forth, does this open the county up to lawsuits? Ms. Heather said earlier that absolutely there'll be lawsuits. Is it? She didn't say absolutely. She said yes, opens for lawsuits. Is this an attempt to derail the initiative? No. If this was an attempt to derail this initiative, I would do it after the signatures came in. I would do it after the 60 days Mr. Buddy was getting. I would make it where it could never get on the general election. Here's the deal. You have time to get the correct petition in. Take the time, read the charter, follow the charter. Let's get a petition for the beta test that's actually in compliance with the charter. Otherwise, we're going to open ourselves up to lawsuits. There's 3 examples here of where it's not in compliance with it. Therefore, it's going to be invalid. We need to go ahead and address it. Thank you for your time.
Good job, Chris. Good timing.
It is 10:37. All right, that's my last speaker card, and you've got a discussion item?
Yeah, a couple things. Just my questions related to the charter thing are, if a few years ago when this wetlands ordinance got passed, I would have supported a charter amendment to repeal it. And so it works on both sides of the aisle, or at least change it significantly. So that's why I wanted it clarified about the language and who decides the language. And I guess maybe this will be a good test. I'm not trying to derail anything either, because I think that the ordinance by petition serves its purpose is to kind of balance us, because this board could very easily swing a different way in a few years. And so I'm trying to think of ways to take advantage of it, assuming I'm on the other side of the issue. Next question is directly at Howard, Dr. Kessler. If this petition passes, would you support having a variance procedure of some sort inside that 35-foot buffer, just say for whatever, properties platted to 95, properties prior to whatever, if you couldn't use it any other way? Because we can make a variance, if it does pass, which I personally don't think it will, but if it does, we can change it with a 5-0 vote. You're that fifth vote. So my question is, and this is the only time you and I can talk about this in a public forum, would you support a variance procedure inside that 35 feet, given certain criteria? You know, you couldn't, you know what I proposed before.
Okay, so the short answer to that is yes, but the devil is in the details.
I understand. Because I kind of outlined before about the platted prior to this, but you would agree that it's not, and I think that's something important for me to know and for people deciding on this to know, that is there any flexibility in it, or it's just don't get any closer than 35 feet, because that's what the ordinance that's being proposed says. No matter what, you can't get closer than 35 feet.
Right, but at the same time, I would not want to be in a situation where we have the ability to just make wholesale 35 feet encroachments.
You know what I'm asking.
Right, so the devil is in the details.
That's it.
Okay, Jerry?
Basically, I have just we have a fellow here in the room that David, you probably can identify with. He was the administrator for Defuniak Springs for 22 years. Were you aware of that?
Oh, yeah. I talk to him on a regular basis.
Maybe that's why he's always smiling back there in the back and never saying anything. He always has a smile on his face. Mm-hmm. So he's watching what you do.
Yeah.
I was watching the internet, and you get a lot of things on the internet, but today one of the things that came across, there was an Alzheimer's patient that was in deep Alzheimer's condition, and the staff and the medical people had put earphones on this gentleman with music. And when they did that, he snapped right up, and his eyes, it was just like he had had an awakening. He was no longer in that state. And the physician asked him what his name was. He answered it very clearly. He asked him who his favorite song was, who his singer, and he said his singer was Cab Calloway. And he asked him then what the song was that he liked most, and he told him the song that he liked most. And then the gentleman sang the song, and he was really a good singer. But it's amazing for you folks who have people who may have Alzheimer's or something. Show them music. Put a headphone on them. That may be something that just, it won't bring them back, but it will give them some peace and enjoyment in their situation. But it was just an amazing...
Okay. The item I wanted to, is that everything, Jerry? Yeah. The item I wanted to bring up is, I was contacted by Mr. Buddy Wells, and he let me know that at the last meeting, whenever we approved our committee appointments, I was, as the chairman, I'm supposed to be on the canvassing board, but there's also supposed to be an alternate as well, and we didn't identify an alternate. And because two districts are going to be running for re-election, the alternate has to be a member of the commission. It can only be either Commissioner Thomas or Commissioner Kessler as the alternate. But Mr. Wells also said that it's also spelled out that whoever the primary or alternate is, they're not allowed to be involved in any kind of campaign that might end up on the ballot. So that really brings it down to the vice chairman, Ralph Thomas. So what it would take a 5-0 vote of the board, but I would like to ask that there would be a second motion for Ralph Thomas.
So are you saying because he's involved in the Wakulla Wetlands Alliance? Because
Commissioner Kessler is actively involved with the petition, and it falls down to...
I'll make a motion for Ralph to be the alternate to the canvassing board.
Second. Have y'all seen how many committees I have already?
But, this is by process of elimination.
I understand. I'm ready to serve.
They have good food on election night. It's worth it.
So if there's a 5-0 vote,
yeah, it's a motion and seconded.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Does it have to be the chairman on the canvassing board? I didn't think it did, because what if you were up for what if the chairman...
No,
was
it
up for
doesn't.
election?
It doesn't have to be the chairman, but...
That's right.
But there's only
He wouldn't be
three...
able to serve if he was up for election. He'd have to hand it
What I'm
over.
saying is, it doesn't necessarily have to be the chairman, I don't think, right? Because I know people in the past, commissioners have been on the canvassing board that weren't chairman.
Right.
Okay.
That's my understanding, too.
So Richard appointed himself to the canvassing board, didn't even need to, but anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so we got that took care of. You know, early in the meeting, you know, like I said, I was under impression how we did the presentation about not being able to have dialogue with the presentation. But one thing that as going forward that I wanted us to be sure that we still do is that whenever someone comes up for citizens to be heard, that they speak and we don't enter into dialogue. We've been doing that in the past, and I think we need to move forward. Another thing I wanted to talk about was, you know, I do believe in citizens having the ability to speak, and it's been mentioned once or twice about you know, allowing the citizens to have the full 3 minutes if we have, well, it's been mentioned in the past, you know, if we have more than 20 speaking on a particular issue, to cut it back down to 2 minutes. But you know, as we was going throughout tonight, we had a pretty fair number of speakers tonight, and we only had, I think, maybe two or three times that it actually went to the buzzer. So what I would like to continue is, as we're going forward, you know, even though we may have more than 20, to still allow them the 3 minutes to speak. But what I'll be doing as a practice is allow them 3 minutes to speak, but at the same time asking each one of those times that, you know, if someone's already gotten up and said the same, instead of everybody getting up and saying the same thing, that someone, you know, instead of using their 3 minutes, they just say that they agree with the other person and go on. I think a lot of people sometimes don't take the full 3 minutes, so I want to try going forward, you know, even though we may have more than 20, just giving the full 3 minutes, and if it still gets out of hand, and readdress it. That's all I have for right now.
I have nothing tonight.
Okay. So I don't know if any of the other commissioners have had contact with Mount Pleasant Church about getting gravel on their road to the church. Anyway, that's been brought up to me, and I passed it on to...
Where's it at?
That's off of Mount Zion, and it's where that power line is, it cuts through there. Okay. And then the other issue is, and I don't know that, there's an issue on these intersections. We have prioritized 4 intersections on 319 that we've voted on, and now there's a 5th intersection that's I guess being fast-tracked to get done, hopefully not before R4. That's the one down at Medart and 319 and 98.
Let's be clear, any fast tracking has been done by DOT, the state, not by the board.
Correct. I'm not, and I didn't mean to imply that.
Well, some
Okay,
people don't
well,
differentiate
I was
between the two.
going to try to get there. Okay. So there's been a series of communications by which these prioritizations that our board has done was communicated to the and clarified with the DOT. I don't know that we as a board have discussed this intersection in any depth at all, if at all. And I think that it's an important intersection for us to discuss on 2 levels. One is as regards to prioritization and fast tracking by DOT. And the other is on whether it's really a good or bad idea of what their design is. So I just put that out for the board to think about. I don't know that maybe I'd be bringing it back, or somebody else might be bringing it back for a workshop to discuss this, but I think it is so important for our county to have the board discuss this. I think we need to do it.
Do we have any more discussion? Have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right.